Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. This is your host, Adam Mason with the Bearded Tog Podcast. Just hope you had a great holiday season. We're back into the thick of it. We're releasing episodes every week. It's going to be awesome. It's a doubler today, so hopefully you listen to the 2 goals episodes released before this. But today, a special guest and a great guy, a good friend of mine, Keith Lee. Amazing guy, amazing photographer. I've known Keith and watched his work for, like 4 or 5 years, like almost as long as I've been a photographer. And so his influence on me has just been incredibly strong. His character, his just vibe, and his hustle. Like he just does so much. But I wanted him to talk about today his boudoir business. So I have never shot boudoir. Don't plan on it. Have no desires to. It's just not my thing. I don't think I would be good at it. But he is really good. I mean, he's a great photographer, so it's really easy to love the images. But at the same time, he's just great. And I've never heard a bad thing about him from any of his clients or anything like that, anything I've read online. So he's awesome. His clients love him. They trust him. And I wanted to use this episode as this opportunity to help people who are thinking of going into the boudoir business, maybe want to start it on the side, maybe want to just try something new and try something kind of scary or adventurous. It's just all about branching out and trying new things. And Keith does everything. So he's an absolute hard-working monster. He's a great guy. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Take a listen, glean some thoughts, and enjoy with Keith Lee. Hey, Keith, how's it going, man?
Good, yourself, buddy?
It's going awesome, man. Just prepping for Christmas time, and I have 2 weddings in January, one New Year's Eve, so I'm just like, I didn't really get an off-season this year.
Yeah, that's those are going to be the fun ones. How's Sarah taking you working New Year's Eve? Is she working with you, or she let you go for New Year's Eve?
I don't know if I should say this on on the podcast, but she
didn't know about it.
I politely asked her when I got the inquiry, I think back in like August or July, and it was a rough time anyway because I just spent like 4 weeks in Africa and then 2 weeks shooting for a client at the RNC and the DNC, and so she had like not seen me for a while, and I was leaving for Iceland in 2 weeks, so I was just like, hey, so what happens is Sarah takes she gets 2 weeks off of work every holiday season from her job, which is awesome. She loves it. And every year for 5-6 years, she's gone back home and spent as much time as possible at home. But, when you have like a new boo, if you will, you have somebody affecting your life, things change. And so I said, hey, we could either go together, but I have a wedding on New Year's Eve and I would like to take it. Can we do it? And, she was fine with it, and she's a little bit sad because she has to come back with me just because, it'll be a little bit easier for her and stuff like that. And so, but it's going to be all right. She's cool with it.
Yeah, that's a trade-off when you have I'll use your words, a boo in your life.
Yeah.
When you have to take these wedding gigs that fall on holidays and so forth, you got to consult with them and get their blessing. And I'm kind of used to it by now. But I remember this year, I guess I can call it this year because we're almost done. But I took on a wedding on January 1st. And so that meant, New Year's Eve, now that we're parents, not like we would do anything, kind of crazy and outrageous, but we stayed in. It was a pretty mellow night for us. And since I had to shoot the wedding the next day, and that's not bad, but the thing that made it worse was we were leaving the next day on January 2nd to go to Hawaii to shoot a wedding, and so I basically left it up to Allie to wrangle in a toddler and pack and all that stuff and get everything ready to be gone for like 7-8 days, which she reminded me throughout the day, throughout the wedding day, just kind of texting me and saying, Beckett won't do this or that, and I can't find this, and you are not shooting a wedding on New Year's Day again. Before a trip, that is. So yeah, it was definitely interesting. But it was a fun wedding. It was totally worth it though. I don't know if she would agree.
That is awesome. I love that. I think for Sarah personally, our own wedding, we're not married yet. It's in March, and so like there's so much random stuff happening in our lives right now that we're just like, whatever, we'll just do whatever it takes. Like if we don't see each other before the wedding, we'll for 3 months, that's totally fine. Once we're married, it'll be fine. And kind of that pie in the sky outlook, but it's pretty funny. But I want to talk about you, man. So I know you have a full-time job. You've been doing that for a while. Shoot between 30 and 35 weddings a year. In addition to that full-time job, which is insane. You've done that your entire photography career, at least, which is insane. But you run this side business that I think started, I want to say a few years ago, doing boudoir, and you're super passionate about it. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's like this, like you mentioned, we started the photography business about 6 or 7 years ago, and it wasn't until probably our second year where we started shooting boudoir, and something I wanted to always get into. But I wanted to make sure that, the foundation was pretty solid. And what I mean by that is, I feel like that, I think it'd be pretty easy for anyone with a camera to say, hey, it'd be cool to shoot half-naked women. Let's go ahead and do it without knowing some of the fundamentals or having some kind of, again, strong foundation. So I wanted to make sure that I had, a good amount of experience underneath my belt. And then obviously, having Allie part of that. So for people that don't know, Allie is a huge part of, the boudoir side of things and overall the business, but on the boudoir side of things, she is doing the makeup. She's doing the hair. She is second shooting too as well. She's helping with posing, which is really, really big. But it was something that we both wanted to do. It wasn't just something I wanted to do. We both talked about it and seeing different images, and we're like, hey, it'd be cool if we could do this or that. And finally, the stars lined up and we ventured into it, which has been a ton of fun. It's not a bad way to spend, an afternoon or a day in, a cushy hotel room with air conditioning and room service, and with beautiful women and photographing them, versus a wedding day where it could be hot and sweaty or cold and running around and so forth. Yeah, it's definitely different, but we definitely enjoy it. And it's not hard work. It's definitely hard work. It's different. It's definitely different.
How did that look getting started? I know, like, a lot of folks, I imagine maybe Allie helped out a little bit being your wife and all, but like, how did you just like make an announcement? Hey, we're doing boudoir. Like, how do you start, how do you announce something that's so intimate, and how do you get into that?
Well, I think, obviously with the power of social media, it makes things a lot easier. But if I remember correctly, back in the day, I think we posted something and said, hey, is it, we'd be interested in trying out boudoir. Is anybody, does anybody want to play be a model for us? And with that, anybody hears, modeling or potentially free photography, they're all on board. But actually our first couple of subjects turned out to be, one was one of Allie's friends, who was interested in doing it anyway. I think she actually asked us if we would ever want to give it a try, with her being the subject. So that turned out really, really, well, and it was cool because we already had a relationship with her. So it wasn't, starting from complete scratch. And then, like you mentioned before, Allie too, she jumped in front of the camera, which is great because she likes being in front of the camera. She's natural in front of it, opposed to someone like me, which, not that I would ever do boudoir or doudoir, but I hate being in front of the camera. And then also we also shot someone that a client too as well, someone that was caught on and said, hey, I'd like to pay you to do the session and so forth, knowing that this is your first time go at it, based on the strength of your photography work on wedding and engagements and family sessions, senior sessions. I'd like you to to be your subject and and as a gift for my husband. So that's how things kind of got off, and it kind of took off from there on. It just gets obviously a little challenging where, unlike wedding photography work and senior sessions and engagements and so forth, I think everyone, it's very rare that you'll get someone that says, don't, post any pictures on social media or in public or on the blogs. Boudoir is a lot different, right? So especially when you have paying clients, even when, even for the session I just mentioned for Allie's friend, she didn't, and it's something that we went into and having a good understanding before we shot it, but she didn't want to share her pictures of her face being posted in public. So it's just tough because you can't share, some of those awesome moments, some of those awesome images, with, with other people and in general public. And it's totally fine. We understand and respect that. And to this day, we have hundreds of images that people haven't seen that we're not allowed to share, which is totally fine. We respect those wishes. I get it. It's just such a bummer. I always just wish that one day the client, contacts us and says, "Hey, Keith, remember, our session we did, last year or years before? Go ahead, you can post it now because I'm in a different place." They want to probably celebrate themselves maybe now that they have kids or whatnot, but that hasn't happened yet. Maybe one day. So we'll see.
That's awesome. That's so interesting. And I love that, I think you kind of gained some trust and some credibility with your already being a photographer, already being in an industry, making a strong name for yourself. It wasn't like you just became a photographer and you're like, all right, I'd like to shoot naked people. Let's do this.
Yeah. I mean, that just sounds so creepy, especially being a male photographer. You see that on friggin' Craigslist and stuff like that, right? We'll shoot boudoir session for $100, and like who's ever going to want to do that? So yeah, I think it's important to develop that trust in your brand and in your work, your goals, and have your style too as well, before just kind of jumping in and venturing into something like this. It's different when you're shooting families and engagements, or even dare I say weddings. But if someone wants to take that risk, a couple wants to take a risk on not knowing anything about that photographer, but or so-called photographer. But boudoir is different. It's just there's got to be a lot of trust involved. Especially when it comes to wearing near nothing clothing.
Yeah, absolutely. I know a ton of successful women who do boudoir photography. They do it full time, and maybe they mix that in with, we'll just say, like other intimate kinds of photography, like motherhood and maternity and stuff like that. How is it as a man? Like, how is it weird? Is it different? What were some of the things you've learned in the past few years?
Yeah, that's a good question. For one, I can only think of one session, to be honest, where Allie wasn't there to be there present for the session, and even then, the client had one of her friends there too. So there's never ever been a session where it's just been me and the client, unless it's me and Allie, her being the client. But other than that, Allie's always there, and it feels weird when she's not there. Sometimes she has to run to, use the bathroom or something like that, and we're about to start on a different posing or a different area in the room to start shooting and stuff like that, and I'll wait for her because it just feels kind of weird. Is it? I'm sure I've lost. When I say lost, not been able to get some inquiries being a male photographer, primary male photographer. Absolutely. I think there's definitely. I've heard it. There's some clients that are more comfortable having a woman photographer photograph that way, which is totally fine. But in that sense, I just think that photography can be different. Just like with my wedding photography, I have a different approach and different style, as you say. It's kind of more, it's more edgy. It's not kind of soft and wide open aperture. It tends to be more kind of editorial. And it's also from perspective from a dude. I think there's this there's a different outlook from us guys when we look at girls, when girls look at girls. I think girls, not that I don't appreciate that, see things differently, and guys see things differently. And that's why I think it's great when having Allie there. Not only she's the makeup artist, she shoots too, right? So she's shooting from her perspective, even though I'll probably initially set up the posing and how I want what they're wearing and so forth. But she's also shooting not literally side by side, but from a different perspective. And I'm always blown away when she'll shoot it from a different perspective, and one that I never would have necessarily thought of. And the client loves it, because it's a female's perspective. So I think it's great to have that, that combination between the two of having a male, male photographer, and that's the lead, and then the female photographer being Allie. And keep in mind that at that point when we're starting to shoot a client, we've already invested about anywhere from 1 hour to 2 hours of time, obviously doing makeup. So that client's already built trust with Allie. And also myself, even though I'm not doing the makeup or hair or anything like that, but I'm sitting around kind of breaking the ice, talking to them and so forth. So, and oftentimes a lot of these boudoir clients are my, either future or future, current, or present wedding clients. So they're doing it as a gift or as, a wedding gift, or maybe it's a gift for an anniversary, or maybe it's for a boyfriend that, might eventually be their fiance and so forth. So, it's kind of cool because in a case where they're currently our client or past client, we've already had that relationship already. So they've seen how the photography kind of works from a clothed engagement wedding side of things. But now they want to continue that relationship, not necessarily with family photography, but now boudoir photography. Maybe it's going to lead to family after having the boudoir session, but it's always nice to see when you see that the client gets pregnant afterwards, like shortly after the boudoir session, or like, months or something like that afterwards, like, sweet, we did our job, bro.
That is hilarious.
That happens a lot.
That is, you should get like a kid bonus or something like that. Like they should, I don't know, send Beckett like a box of Cheerios or something. That is awesome.
There you go. Yeah,
dude. Sorry. I thought it was super cool. Like, one, just hearing the perspective too is you're the only team that I've seen. I know the Hoffers did a few boudoir shoots, but other than that, you're the only like husband and wife team that does some boudoir together. And I think I love that approach because, one, Allie's thinking of stuff that, we're going to guess that the client might like a little bit more personally. But then I have no doubt that the person receiving that gift, usually a guy, is going to like your perspective a lot more, and the balance of that, I think, is like you guys can aim to please two clients. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, as long as the groom or the boyfriend or the fiance doesn't kick my ass or anything like that, which has never happened or anything like that, or even come close or anything like that. But yeah, I think they appreciate it too, looking from a guy's perspective and on what we think is sexy, because there's guy talk, and you're like, hey, check this out, doesn't she look cool, this way and so forth, and we, that's the kind of stuff I like to capture, so they can see their wife, girlfriend, so forth, fiance from that perspective too, and not necessarily from a female's perspective. So I think, and there, by the way, there are different. I know of other, husband-wife combination teams too as well, or usually I feel like a lot of wedding photographers that are husband-wife team, which are plenty, dabble their feet in boudoir too, like you mentioned, the Hoffers. But we're definitely not the only ones. But I think one part that we have a leg up is Allie doing the makeup. There's not too many husband-wife teams that are around that where the wife or I guess husband do makeup. So I think we have a leg up on that, which is pretty cool. So we don't have to, in that case, we don't have to hire a makeup artist. There's not a third person a fourth person in the room. It's me, Allie, and the client, and whoever else they want to bring along. Where in some cases where you hear photographers, even female photographers, will have to have, a makeup artist, sometimes a separate, person for hair. And then them, the client and the photographer itself, which becomes quite a team, meaning quite a few people. And that hotel room is not very big if we're shooting in a hotel room. So it's kind of nice that it's we're all kind of a somewhat one-stop shop.
Yeah, absolutely. And too, with Allie, being your wife and doing hair and makeup, like no overhead, like that's just a practical business thing. You're like, hey, well, we're making the money off of this as well. So
yeah. And I think what's another thing that's cool is that, again, Allie's my wife, right? So I think there's a level of comfort from the client and her husband or boyfriend side that, my wife is there. It's not this the makeup artist was there or the hairdresser person was there. No, it's actually my wife. So it's I think that gives it a little bit more validation that it wasn't some weird guy that just wanted to see his fiance, girlfriend, wife half naked. It's she was there the entire time. And we make a point to make sure they understand that too as well.
Yeah, I love that. The other thing I love too about the boudoir work that I've seen from you is, one, as a photographer, the work is really cool and creative, at least the stuff that you've posted online. And so I love that. But then additionally too, because of the kind of the sensitive nature of boudoir, but then also just kind of like the vibe of that hotel room is probably much different than the vibe of a wedding getting ready session. Wedding getting ready is like 10 people, chaos, and kids running around and all kinds of stuff. Is honestly the intimate nature of like even the portraits, the ones where there's it can be a portrait of anything, but because you've like gotten their eyes and their emotion and their expression from like a pure photographic standpoint, I love that stuff. And I think it's more than just a materialistic or a physical thing. It's actually the emotion behind that person too. So I love that. That's something I think your work comes out that a lot of boudoir just doesn't cover. So I think that's awesome as well.
Thank you. And yeah, I think I always said that, boudoir it's pretty tough, even though it sounds really great to do. Like I said, work in a hotel room, air conditioned, half naked, beautiful women, working next to your wife. This is great, right? But it's one thing to have a bride that's in front of you, dressed in flowers and makeup done and in a room and so forth, alone or not, and they say, okay, make me beautiful by photographing me and so forth. But think of that exact same moment, except wearing almost no clothing. So it's a lot where there's probably where the clothing is able to probably mask or hide, or they feel a lot more comfortable in the shell. I think that would be easier than shooting boudoir. It's just a different beast altogether, and a level. I definitely appreciate those kind of moments. It's pretty tough.
Yeah, absolutely. How much of if you don't mind me asking, what percentage of your income, at least in the photography business, comes from boudoir nowadays?
Honestly, ever since having Beckett and keeping our weekends free and trying to do work-life balance, we don't get a chance to shoot as much as we used to in previous years. Because we would do an entire weekend where the only things we had to worry about is who's going to let the dogs out at our house. Now becomes who's going to watch Beckett for an entire weekend. It's not a wedding day where it turns, it's anywhere from 10 to 12, 14 hours where we hire a nanny and so forth. So we've kind of moved our way what we call boudoir weekends, which is, shooting for entire weekends where we'll shoot anywhere from, 7 or 8, maybe even more in the past, girls in an entire weekend. Now we've kind of moved into doing private sessions where they pick the day and location and so forth, and we meet up there and we shoot those. So from a perspective, it's how many do we get to do a year? Maybe not as many as we did in the past. Probably, anywhere from 10 or so a year. Where weddings is probably twice as much. At some given point, it used to be probably about the same. If we shot, 30 weddings, we probably did 30 boudoir sessions in a year. So it just kind of changed. We're trying, balancing things out. But I think that part of that is also us, wanting to focus more on doing private sessions. And I think we'll do that more and more and get more into it and kind of have more of a balance between wedding photography engagements and boudoir, with boudoir starting to come up, meaning doing more sessions, boudoir sessions.
Definitely. Trying to think about this is, what do you guys price your, you don't have to say the actual numbers, but how do you guys price your boudoir stuff? Say for a private session, is there a session fee? Is there makeup fees? How does that work?
No, just the philosophy going off of some of the stuff I've learned from Tony Hoffer, which is kind of somewhat a no-brainer in the sense that, you want to keep pricing simple, right? So, you don't want to have too many things that are, this is the cost of a sitting fee, and then this is the cost for a private versus a boudoir weekend, or this is the cost for makeup and so forth. Now we have one price that includes a couple hours of photography and the digital images and makeup for starters. Not all girls want to do hair, but we think makeup is important. And it's something that we can control too as well. It's something we've learned in the past where we've had some clients who opted to do their own makeup and it looks like a shit show, when they come in and do the session. And it's not that we think it's bad. It's that they don't have that confidence. They're rethinking it constantly. They're going to the mirrors and touching it up because they don't feel like it looks good. Where if Allie does the makeup, and it's already in the package, then that's one thing they don't have to worry about. Two, it's, they feel like they're being pampered, right? They're being waited on. And three, like I mentioned before, is that it's an icebreaker. We spend, an hour. That client spends an hour in the chair. Allie's applying the makeup. We're talking about everything. If it's a client, a wedding client, then we're talking about, okay, what kind of details have you done, for the wedding, what's left to do. Do you have any questions for me? And then we're just, shooting the crap throughout that entire hour before we're actually starting to shoot, which is really, really nice. It's, I guess the opposite side of that is that they came in, hair done, makeup done, by themselves, and the first thing they have to do is just get undressed. That just seems very awkward for both of us, not just for them, unless they're extremely comfortable, which I've never seen before. So it's nice to break that ice and spend that time breaking the ice. So anyway, going back to your original question, that the way I price it, and it's probably too low sometimes because there's a lot more editing involved compared to an engagement session or a senior session and so forth. But I just price it as kind of like an engagement session plus the service to do makeup. As far as private sessions goes, we leave it up to them if they want to book a hotel room or if they want to do it at their house or they want to do it at a friend's house. But they're accountable for that. Now we'll help out with providing recommendations on hotel locations and so forth, because generally we have a partnership with a number of hotels just from shooting weddings there and so forth. So we build relationships with them. So oftentimes we can get a preferred pricing, which helps them out, which has been awesome. But ultimately it's up to them. And then at that point, they don't owe us deposit. Again, probably that's out of the norm and standards. In the past, if we're booking in a hotel room for a boudoir weekend, we will require deposit, because if they do a no-show or they cancel last minute, we're stuck with the bill to pay the hotel room. So we've done that in the past. But again, if they're going to shoot at their own house and they opt to not do it, it sucks. We don't get that income. But I don't think we ever say, well, that sucks that we have a family day now. So we're not big sticklers about that for now. So yeah, well, for now that works for us, and we'll stick by it.
That's awesome. That is, I love that. It's like very interesting, and it's kind of a different and more laid back, for doing that. What are some of those things that you think what's going through your mind before a boudoir session, as far as, how to be the most professional and how to make people feel comfortable? Do you have like 2 or 3 like key questions that you always ask that helps break the ice, or, what's your methodology behind that?
Well, leading into any boudoir session, we'll start things off is that we'll send an email over to the client with a bunch of tips and tricks, FAQs, and so forth, because the questions turn to be pretty similar between client and client. What should I wear? How many outfits should I bring? What should I wear when I arrive there? Should I have my hair washed, makeup done, not done, so forth. So we have a good slew of stuff that we've learned over the time, and it gets added. More and more stuff gets added to it as every year goes by. But it helps them prepare for the session. And then a part of that is asking them kind of like what they like, and I know it's kind of frowned upon, but in this case, I think it's very helpful. But to create a Pinterest board, put their kind of like favorite images or similar themes that they're going for. From there on, we'll before the session, we'll look at those themes and say, okay, looks like they like to focus on this body part, or they like to focus on a lot of these poses without any clothing, or they like silhouettes and so forth. So we'll study that prior to the session. We'll also view their Facebook profile. online and so forth, and try to get a good idea of, based on the profile pictures, what kind of images they like to see themselves in, right? So oftentimes when you see a profile picture, they're showing, again, they think it's flattering for them, or they think it's funny. One way or the other, it's representing themselves, and that gives us a good idea of what we probably want to capture one way or the other. So we take the time to do that beforehand, and this helps us, gets us prepared for the session, and I think they appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. What does it look like to do a boudoir weekend? I know those used to be really big for you. How does that work practically? And we talked about it a little bit before, but how does that look? Is that 4 people a day? Does it take usually 2 hours for a shoot? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, those are long days, long days. Typically, what we do is we book a hotel room for a couple days, being, check in on Friday and then check out on Sunday. Oftentimes we try to extend it as much as we can based on, just because of hotels and their check-in times and check-out times are kind of wonky. When I say wonky, it doesn't coincide necessarily with, available light that we have, and sunsets and sunrises and so forth. So what we'll do is we'll ask for a early check-in time and a late checkout. At that point, we'll probably squeeze in one session on Friday, depending on when we do the boudoir weekend. If it's during the summer, the evenings, obviously the sun sets about 9 or so, 8 or 9. And then if it's on during the winter, then, by the time you check in, you probably have 1 hour of light. So every session is about anywhere from 3 to 4 hours, which an hour is spent for makeup, another hour is spent for hair if the client opts to, and then we'll shoot for a couple hours. Sometimes it goes over, never goes under, because there's definitely more to shoot all the time. And and it also kind of depends on how many outfits the clients bring. We'll tell them bring as many as you want. We might not shoot it all, but at least it's good to have options and none. And then we also have them prioritize it too. So we'll say, okay, if for some strange reason the alarm goes off and we need to vacate the hotel, what are the absolute outfits we need to cover, before we leave this room? And then we'll kind of prioritize them. We'll say, okay, we'll shoot not that one first, because oftentimes they're somewhat, cold and need to get comfortable being in front of the camera. But we'll save that somewhere midway through. So at that point, they're warmed up and so forth. So yeah, that's kind of the general breakdown. As far as how many people you fit, if you think it's anywhere from 3 to 4 hours, and we'll start as early as, I think, 7 or 8 in the morning. We can generally squeeze in about 3 girls a day. So 8 to 12, 12 to 4, 4 to 8. Again, during the summer months. Some clients opt to do a night session too, like more where everything is completely lit or silhouetted and so forth, which is really, really cool. It's a different approach. And I think since people know already our photography and we tend to be, kind of creative with lighting and so forth, they like that approach. It's stuff that you don't usually see, I feel like, from when you think about boudoir photography. A lot of times it's very, natural, looks at least naturally lit. But being able to play with light it's pretty fun, and it's a different approach.
Yeah. Do you think that boudoir for you is honestly just something kind of fun and fills your guys' creative endeavors? Especially, it doesn't seem like a cash cow. You didn't add it on to make any, too much money per se.
No, and there's some people that do, which is great. I think boudoir photography is kind of similar to any other photography, from seniors to weddings, engagements, and so forth. It's your own interpretation, right? So if you think, there's some people that tend to be more traditional with their photography, wedding, engagement, seniors, and so forth. We're tend not to be take that approach, right? We want to be, and I feel like that's something important to remember is, having an established photography business and style is definitely important before getting, in my opinion anyway, before getting into boudoir photography. I remember, when I was first getting into it, I was just, starting to shoot boudoir, and you're, I feel like just like anything else with photography, you get wrapped up in looking at other people's work or looking at Pinterest boards and pictures, and you're like, man, you probably I want it to kind of look like this and so forth, and replicate that. But you get lost in your way, and you kind of forget that the client's hiring you because based on your strength of potentially, your established photography as it is, they want to see the same thing except except in a boudoir format. So, what that meant for us is that, hey, we're creative with lighting. We are creative overall with posing, creative with different scenes and so forth. So why not incorporate that with boudoir? Well, we do double exposures. Why not do that with boudoir? We do slow shutter shots. Okay, why don't you do that too as well? We do silhouettes. Do that with boudoir. So you can add those on too as well. So I just think that that's important not to forget. Whatever you've established and has made you successful within your portrait photography, why not incorporate that boudoir, too as well?
Yeah, I love that. For people that don't know, at least in the wedding photography world, for Keith and I, there's a not just the images wise, but there's like we'll just call it like a communication process or workflow, and those change for every client. And I think it's really cool, one, both for your photography to try and do something new, and you're going to break into something new. But it's also, like you said, like the process outside of the photography is so much different. There's different logistics, there's different relationships, different questionnaires, different, outfit picking and stuff like that. Like we've never helped a bride pick a wedding dress, per se. I did actually help a bride of mine. She's super sweet. She emailed me and she's like, hey, I think it's going to be like 100 degrees on our wedding. My wedding dress is going to be made out of this material. How do you feel about it? In your experience, has this worked out pretty well? And I was like, what an honor for her to ask me. I was like, so I sent it to a few of my planner friends before I emailed her, just so I had a full answer, but it was really funny. And she was like, I can send you photos of the dress if you want. And I was like, I guess to make an educated decision, I would need to see it. But I felt kind of like, I don't know. It's probably similar to how you felt. And sometimes I'm just like, this is different. So it was really funny.
Yeah, I've been asked before about makeup. Day of the wedding, and I think, and I guess they're asking me because Allie's a makeup artist, so they think that I have a good idea of what mascara looks good, or what kind of lipstick or blush and so forth. But I've been asked that on the spot during a wedding day, where it's like, hey, Keith, what do you think of my makeup? I feel like something's missing. I'm like, shit, I don't know. Like, what about lashes? I'm like, oh yeah, you're right, lashes. I'm like, oh, cool. Allie would be so proud, But yeah, you're right. It's definitely different. We do get asked about, what outfits should they bring, or even the day of the session, since they lay it out on the table, they're like, okay, what do you think we should shoot? Or, there's definitely ones that are deal breakers, meaning that they want to absolutely be shot in that. While other ones I'm like, you know what, this is not going to look well against this background, so forth. So, or this is not going to be, we want to shoot a silhouette shot. So we want something that shows off more your figure and so forth. So we'll definitely provide some of that input. But yeah, it just kind of reminded me as you're talking to, some of the things we do and don't do is, we definitely, for me, I stay 100%, and Allie too, we stay 100% professional, right? So I think that's from your previous questions before, being a male photographer, I think that's extremely important. You don't want to, I've never ever said, no matter what I'm thinking, that, hey, your boobs look good, or, oh, man, you look super skinny, that looks great, or nice legs, this is going to photograph really well, or anything like that. I don't make any of those comments, no matter what they say. Or they say, oh, oh, does my butt look good in this, or something like that. I just keep it 100% professional. Allie, on the other hand, can get away with saying, giving that vote of confidence to say, oh my God, girl, you look so skinny, oh, these abs look great and stuff like that. I stay away from any of those kind of comments, regardless of what I think. What I think is what I capture in photography, and keep that pretty simple. And then also too, it's just, I have this big long sticking rule that Allie laughs at me about, is I don't touch the lingerie. I let Allie kind of handle that. or the client that is, So I remember I had this one client saying, "Hey, like she didn't have it on her, she had it off, but she said, feel how much padding there is in this bra." I'm like, "Yeah, you know what? I'm not gonna touch another woman's bra. That's all right. It's all good. If I want to touch somebody's bra, I'll touch my wife's bra." I don't know. It's just kind of a weird thing, but I want to stay professional. I don't know if how her husband or her fiance or her boyfriend would like it, knowing that I've kind of like, touched her bra and so forth. But it's kind of nice too, in that sense, going along that theme is that, if there's any kind of hair that needs to be moved, an outfit, a strap that needs comes down, or needs to be placed differently, that's where Allie comes in. I stay away from those kind of things. Like, one is that I can stay in my position. I don't have to move and I can be lazy. But two is that, I don't touch the client or anything like that. Allie does that, which is something that's a huge bonus too as well.
Dude, I think that's like a huge deal for you guys in the long term, especially with clients and client reputation. Is like, I know watching your boudoir business is that it could get as big as you would like it to get, because you guys are so good. Those kinds of interactions and boundaries and rules are like, those are what make clients feel at ease, and I love that. I think that's super cool, and I think it's super wise, and it's a good practical tip for anybody that's trying to go into boudoir as maybe a husband and wife team, or maybe I think of like a lot of potential husband and wife teams where the husband is already a photographer and the wife wants to kind of get into it, and the photographer might usually have more creative control. Well, he's got to kind of help her along. So I think that's or vice versa, so I think that's good to have those boundaries.
Yeah. And professional, by the way, doesn't mean you have to be a stick in the mud or be, terribly proper. Like what I mean by that is, we have a ton of fun. We joke around with them. We're swearing. We're making inappropriate comments, in general, not when I say inappropriate comments, I mean like, that's what she said kind of comments. Nothing, directed towards them or anything like that. So it makes them really feel at ease. And that's what I feel like that what our kind of photography portrays, regardless if it's boudoir or if it's wedding photography. It kind of shows that our clients feel pretty comfortable in front of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Last few questions. Are there any goals that you haven't met in boudoir yet? I know a few years ago you probably looked for some creative inspiration you were telling me about. What is there like an ideal session or some ideas that you're still chasing, or has nothing come up yet?
That's a great question. No, I think nothing really, huge goals. I think overall, we'd like to do, have a boudoir to probably take up, 50%, if not maybe more or something like that in the future of our overall income, photography income, which would be great. But I think, I remember we had this one client that contacted us that lived in this huge, beautiful mansion. An older woman, I would say older, probably in her 40s and stuff like that. But, she looked like she would have been, done awesome. And this is her confidence and overall vision, and having, this beautiful backdrop of a location. Like we're talking about, I don't know how many square feet, probably over 10,000 square foot house. This kind of exotic pool in the background. It just looked really, really cool. I was super stoked to shoot that session, and the timing. She put a deposit down, even though I told her she didn't need to. And this timing never worked out ever. Like she had to cancel. I have to cancel original, bookings and so forth. And I think, and then apparently, like I haven't talked to her recently, but we got the referral from a friend, and apparently she's still looking forward to doing it one day. But I feel like that would be a really, really cool session. And I would think that, having so many options just from a background perspective, that we could easily spend over a couple hours, probably 2-3 hours, more like 3 or 4 hours shooting that session. I think this would have been really, really cool. A lot of times we're shooting in the same hotel rooms, and just around the same kind of lighting and so forth, different subjects, obviously. And that's kind of interesting part is that, on the creative note, is that we could totally probably, based on the work that we show, Some clients being more private than others. We are in a position where we could totally just shoot the same thing over and over again, cookie cutter, same poses, and no one would be the wiser, right? But I would know, Allie would know, and I feel like in some ways the client would probably know, because if they saw, if they ever saw anybody else's session, they'd be like, hey, yeah, Keith did the exact same pose, with me, or did the exact same thing. We make a conscious decision and choice to try to push ourselves every single time when we shoot a boudoir session and do something different. But obviously staying within reason too. If a client wants XYZ, then we want to make sure we deliver that, or if they're going for a certain style. But for the most part, again, we want to push ourselves, even though the setting might be similar, to do something different each and every time.
Yeah, absolutely. What I totally forget what I was going to ask you. Oh, so like if there was a client who, maybe kind of like this mansion woman, this young lady, had a, kind of had like an outdoor space, or I'm thinking of maybe like a green room or a sun room, something that just kind of had a different vibe than a hotel room. Like, do you think that could potentially help you out when it comes to building your creativity? Is there, I wonder if that place exists, like a place that's outdoors that feels private enough, or because boudoir, is usually mentioned in the bedroom, would that kind of turn into a different kind of shoot, you think,
Being outdoors?
Yeah, being outdoors, or just kind of different environments other than a bedroom or a window,
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's probably why it sounds so appealing, right? Like you have when we have a different backdrop, if it's outdoors, and part of that would have been outdoors too at her house, which is something we haven't done, to be honest, because just logistics wise, and what are you going to do that? Are you going to do it in a park, and have all the complications that go with it? Not only having the comfort level of the client, but also is someone else going to see it and so forth. But if it's a private residence, then that sounds kind of cool and appealing. Obviously, depending on the weather too, like you watch out for mosquitoes and bugs and rain and so forth, humidity, especially being in St. Louis in the Midwest. But yeah, I think that's the kind of things that it's we're happy to shoot in hotel rooms all day long, but to do something different, I guess just like anything else, weddings where you have this wedding venue you've never shot at, or it's something that you haven't done before, that sounds very appealing, and cool to do. It sounds exciting and inspiring.
Dude, I just got a cool idea. I've been a musician since I was 10, so that's one of my hobbies. I play guitar, and I was on tour a little bit, and actually went to college on a full ride, at least for the first 2 years, and then got kicked out. You can hear more about that in episode 1. But I think it'd be really cool to do a boudoir session at like a music shop. The logistics would have to be like very, concrete and all, but I'm just thinking about like a boudoir image with a wall of guitars behind them, or something like that, or I don't know.
Yeah, there's it's definitely interesting. We've done a engagement session at a guitar shop, which was really, really cool. At least partial session. Yeah, I think Allie, till this day, she still has a desire or goal to do a session with her car. Being the background, our backgrounds being in cars and so forth, that she wants to do that. Again, logistics, we'd have to figure all that out. But I'm sure that's going to happen one day too as well. But this, the sky's the limit, right? As far as what you can do and what has been done and what you want to do. Hotel is, some people, purists, might think a hotel room or the client's house is ultimately what boudoir photography should be photographed and contained in. But no, I think depending on how it's photographed, it could be, you can incorporate in any location or any kind of backdrop or any kind of props and so forth all together. It's just, we're all breaking boundaries at this point with photography. I'm sure there's a ton of wedding photography too, especially, again, purists, where they think, when I say purists, it could be even more traditional. Like, how is that wedding photography? It's a silhouette. I can't see people's faces and all this other stuff. And no, it's whatever's kind of cool and has that vibe. Wedding photography or boudoir, for that matter, I think this could be really, really cool.
Awesome. Dude, thanks so much for being on the show. I appreciate all of that insight to the boudoir photography. What is something, last question, what is one piece of advice you would give somebody looking to get into the boudoir business?
I think you want to have a strong foundation in your photography. Making sure you have a goal in mind, have ideas, especially if you're starting off, have a goal and have a game plan of what you want to accomplish. When I first started off, until this day, I still, when I have ideas, I jot them down. Used to be kind of in a drawing book before. Now it's all done through Evernote, because that's what I have with me all the time is my phone, no matter what. So I'll jot down these ideas, and I think, okay, well, that could be a good idea for X and X so and so session. But you can't. There's no such thing as being over prepared for especially for a boudoir session. I mean, these can be translated towards weddings too, but I think you have a good game plan. You know your client. Ask the right questions. Staying professional, especially when you're a male photographer. Having fun at the same time. Obviously, if you have fun, client's going to have fun, and it's going to exude in the photography too. I think those are definitely things I would stress before starting out, and also too is you don't have to start off with a client. You can start off with a friend, or in a male photographer, it could be your girlfriend or your wife. Start off with that first before you jump into taking clients. That way, it could be a win-win situation of photographing someone that you already know, and you don't have to pay them as well, and they get some time for print kind of deal. And hopefully, they love the images, and if they don't, then if they don't, and you have room to improve on, then that's great. You learn from that, and you continue to build on that. I didn't love all the images I did from the first session that I did, but there was definitely a ton of keepers. Until this day, I have some that are on my kind of somewhat portfolio on Instagram and so forth. That was from it's from 4 years ago, 5 years ago, being the first session. So there's definitely value in that. And then lastly, if you're a male photographer, definitely you can't always have your girlfriend or your wife be with you, kind of the setup that I have, which is totally blessed and honored to have. But have a female person with you. Don't have another dude with you. That's just even more creepy. You want, if it's a makeup artist, fine. If it's a hairdressing person, hair person, stylist, so that's fine. If it's just one of her girlfriends, that's fine. Even from a legal standpoint, you don't want to be the only dude there with a half naked girl. I think you'll appreciate it. I think the husband or fiance or boyfriend will appreciate it too as well. So this is a couple of tips from there.
Awesome. Those are amazing. Where's the best place for folks to see, the few boudoir shots that are allowed to come out into the public? Where's the best spot?
For now, until our website gets up, which hopefully will be in the next couple of months, follow us on Instagram /Keith Lee Studios Uncovered. That will be your best pick. I'm usually posting pictures every once in a while, just kind of spreading things out. Like you said, the images that we can post, we've been fortunate enough that our clients give us the thumbs up and okay. And there are more stuff that I need to post up. Just kind of keep spreading things out as we go along. But yeah, that's your best bet.
Awesome, man. Thanks for being on the show. Pleasure to have you as always. We'll have you back again sometime to talk about your hustle. I'm super excited, man. Thanks so much.
No problem. Thanks for having me, Adam.
Wow. I love Keith Lee's perspective. I have never shot boudoir, as I said before, but he's the man. He's just got so much good insight. And if you learned anything from him, definitely follow him. All his stuff is in the show notes. I would love for you guys to connect with him. He's an amazing guy, amazing photographer. Thanks so much for being on the show, Keith. Love to have you back sometime. Just want to say thanks to everybody for following as usual. Thank you so much for the downloads. Feel free to share this episode with somebody. Would love it. And then awesome if you can leave a review. That would be amazing. Thank you so much.